In and amongst the very busy weekend in American and global soccer, MLS Commissioner Don Garber came out and answered questions about a variety of topics, but we're going to zoom in here on promotion relegation. He had his softest statement yet regarding Pro Rel and Major League Soccer, going to never say never. So, which is a much softer take than never.
Well, I think if you are being fair to Don Garber, he's never said it's never happening, you guys are crazy. But I do think he pushes back against the idea that MLS needs Pro Rel or has to have Pro Rel, or so there's some obligation on the part of the top league in American soccer to have Pro Rel. He doesn't like that argument. Now, I'm kind of in line with Don on that. Like, I don't think, well, I want Pro Rel to happen. I don't think of it as some moral imperative. Like, if we're not doing Pro Rel, you don't have a real soccer league. That's not my mentality. I know some people probably feel that way. I don't. I reject that out of hand, that you have to have Pro Rel or it's not real soccer. If you want to get there, great. Let's work towards it. Let's find a way. This is what dotting the map is all about for us. The more clubs we have that are strong, that are established, that can sell season tickets the way that AC Boise does, that can play good soccer, that are teams that we can count on being there over the long term, the closer we are to Pro Rel. Because then the pressure starts to build. Well, you got so many teams and you got a whole country and you're missing out on something. And maybe from a business perspective, it actually works to MLS's benefit to do Pro Rel, right? So Don Garber has always had to walk this line because MLS was not going to do Pro Rel. Like, that just wasn't going to happen in the first 20 years of its existence. They were trying to establish themselves as a league that wasn't going to fold at any given point. The owners who had put millions of dollars into this weren't going to be like, yep, we're going to sign off to maybe be down in a second division. And there was no second division to go down to. Because again, one thing that marks American soccer is that we are league down, not club up. And when you talk about that, you have to recognize that because of the way that capitalism works, the way that antitrust laws work, these are individual businesses doing what is best for their individual businesses. There's no cultural pressure the way there would be in a lot of football playing countries to get together and make it happen. It's not a demand of the people, and there's no history that you're having to fall in line with in order to do this. So, again, do I want Pro Rel? Yes, I do. I think it would be fascinating, interesting. I really believe at this point MLS isn't in any danger of having its clubs fold because they go down. But there's a reason why he has talked like this. And what do we got, Rob? We've got this where he says, never say never. And you go back 10 years, 2015. What did he say in 2015?
In 2015, the MLS commissioner says, we play in a country where major leagues are really successful. There is no promotion and relegation in hockey and basketball, and they work really well. Promotion and relegation is not happening in Major League Soccer anytime soon.
Yes, anytime soon. Now, that's open-ended. That is not specific. And we actually found a clip. I found a clip on YouTube that speaks to his changing attitudes and the arguments he's made and things like that over the past decade, right? So 2015 is a decade ago, and Don Garber said it's not happening anytime soon. Here we are in 2025, and Don Garber is saying never say never. Now, it's also worth pointing out, and producer Jenny brought this up in the pre-show meeting, but I'll mention it. It's something I was thinking about as well. That Don Garber's a lame duck commissioner, for lack of a better way of describing him. Right? It's unlikely that Don Garber is going to sign another long-term contract. He's at the point now, 30 years into or 20 whatever years into his run, that it looks like retirement is on the block. He's going to be moving towards that direction. So maybe he's got a free roll here. Maybe he can be a little looser with this because it's not going to be down to him. It's going to be down to the next commissioner to guide the league into that phase. But I found
do you remember before we move on, it's like that. Do you remember being a senior year in high school, that second semester senior year, when you know you're on your way out, you're a lot freer to be whoever and whatever you want to be.
You're maybe talking back to the teachers a little bit. You're sleeping in class a little bit more. You're doing that. Maybe that's Don Garber. He's in his senioritis phase.
He's wearing pajamas to the office.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe. Kids are wearing pajamas to school all the time now. It doesn't matter if you're second semester, senior year or not. All right. This is what I wanted to bring up. So Chris Caters on YouTube. This is a video, by the way, only has less than 100 views. So, go watch it in its original form. But here's Chris Caters asking Don Garber about Pro Rel 2 years ago.
Expensive stadium, a lot of work that still needs to be done. And if the only judge as to what league you're playing in is whether you finish in the top quartile, it doesn't make sense to us at this level of development in MLS. What if Houston, the guy buys the team and he wants to invest all this money in making it better, making a championship, 4 of his guys get injured, and the next thing you know, he's playing in the USL. Nothing against the USL, but that league isn't developed enough like the rest of the football community, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in Europe and South America, to be able to support them.
All right, so that's Garber's argument 2 years ago. Does that still hold? Does his argument still hold? Remember, as USL is in this massive expansion phase, recognizing that those are two individual businesses that would have to find some way to partner, and for lack of a better way of describing them, have been in something of a competition for a while now, and certainly are in a competition in terms of Major League Soccer operating its own lower division league, right? When Don Garber talked last week about Pro Rel and mentions lower division soccer growing in this country, is he talking about the USL that he referenced in that clip 2 years ago, or is he talking about the league Major League Soccer runs, which is MLS Next Pro?
Yeah, it's a good point, because I was, my eyebrows went up a little bit when he was saying, oh, the lower leagues are doing great things now. Like, it's better now than it's ever been. And I was, surprised. I hadn't really seen him say a great deal of good things about lower leagues, but it's a good point. He may very well be effusive about what's happening in the lower leagues due to Major League Soccer, maybe trying to grow that out via MLS Next Pro.
I mean, again, he didn't reference MLS Next Pro directly. He left that for us to decide. He said, maybe as the development of the lower divisions continues to grow, as they've been doing so well over the years, there will be a proper ecosystem. Frankly, I don't believe that ecosystem exists today, but who knows? I've learned to never say never. This is not a commitment. This is not we're talking about it. This is not it's none of that. It's simply a softening of a previously held stance, which was, nope, it's not going to happen here, or it's not happening in the foreseeable future, or for a very long time, or again, never say never is about as good as you're probably going to get from Don Garber at this point. And, look, I know there's this debate about Messi and whether Major League Soccer has taken full advantage of Lionel Messi being here, or whether or not Major League Soccer did the wrong thing by signing the deal with Apple. And we know that that deal is going to end sooner than it was supposed to. And people are reading that as a negative on Major League Soccer, right? Apple is choosing to get out of business with MLS because they don't see the value there. Certainly that's a possible interpretation of that. I'm sure MLS would spin this as, this gives us freedom to find a new contract, a new television deal, blah, 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 blah. Right? But if this was working perfectly, if this was going gangbusters, they wouldn't be getting out of this deal. So you can talk about the business of MLS not being as good as it should be, or not being what they want it to be, but it's really hard to argue that MLS isn't in a good place business-wise. With stadiums, with the teams that have come online, with the enthusiasm in various places, there will always be stragglers. There will always be clubs that are scraping the bottom of the barrel, that don't have the attendance, that don't have the excitement, that have fumbled the bag in terms of exposure in their own markets. Some of those are original MLS clubs that have struggled to find their footing as new clubs come on board and start to get more attention. It's much easier to sell when you're new. Brad Stith mentioned it today on Countdown to Kickoff. The honeymoon period is real. Can you turn that honeymoon period into long-term success is a big question. And these MLS teams that go back to 96, 98, 2000, whatever, have struggled to be relevant in their markets. DC United, FC Dallas, Colorado Rapids, to name a few. Those clubs will always drag the league down a little bit. But what about the clubs like San Diego? What about the clubs like Miami is going to fill up that joint next year? What about Nashville, 30,000 seats and mostly full? Like these, the league is not suffering. It's maybe just not where it really wants to be. And again, the bar is high for what we expect out of MLS if they are going to present themselves as the dominant force in American soccer.
Like anything, Major League Soccer, it's all about the lens in which you take. You can, make a laundry list of all the things that aren't very attractive or aren't necessarily what you'd want from it. But you can also adjust to say, wow, this has really come a long way. The likes of the players that are here, the stadiums that are there. and all the other improvements that have happened, not as fast as everyone wants. But if you think about it, going back to that 2010 clip, how many things have happened and improved in the league in the last 10 years? While we're living it, 10 years seems like forever, but in the grand scheme of things, that's not very long. One argument, though, the anti-pro-rel argument that seems to be still in the zeitgeist. I saw Peter Vermees bring it up a week or two again, and I kind of want to push back on it, is that it's impossible because owners have put so much money in already. And to say that like somebody invested in something now, that means the whole future is already accounted for. I really don't like that argument.
I don't think
like
that's what that,
anything can be litigated. And,
sure.
So you spent $500 million to get in now. Okay. So if you put that, system change 5-10 years into the future, those things, I feel like, they might be difficult, but I feel like that could be worked out if you genuinely want.
You mean that those owners can be made whole if they suffer some massive drop in revenue or something? I do think that whole thing is a bit of a house of cards for a couple reasons. One of them is, you could always point to that.
You can't say like we'll never be able to do it because this guy spent $500 million here.
Right. No, but that's the argument. Isn't he should suck it up? The argument is he won't vote for it. Right. That owner might not vote for pro-rel if they say, I spent $500 million to get into this league. Why on earth would I want to put my club in a position to be knocked down to a second division? Now, I would say, and this is, again, where wish casting, I would say if you're an owner, you should be like, well, I'm going to run a good organization and we're never going to get relegated because I'm going to play good soccer and I'm going to buy the players necessary to keep my team in the top division. If you are willing to commit to this kind of investment in the first place, be willing to commit to the investment of keeping if you're going to be chasing championships every year, if that's the commitment you've made to the fans or that's what you want as an owner, well, then you should never get relegated. So why wouldn't you vote to put in pro-rel, speaking as somebody who feels confident that you're never going to have to deal with relegation? But this is also a house of cards because almost to a person, these clubs, this league, although it is organized differently and may have some protections around that investment, these sporting enterprises that these people typically own are not about making money, not the money that comes in the door year in and year after year. It's about the value of your business, the value of your club. Now, if that's the thing, if I get relegated, the value of my club drops dramatically. Okay. I guess I can see that from an investment perspective. But again, we're talking about a difference between a typical business, something that I'm going to make widgets. I'm going to sell a billion widgets and make millions and billions of dollars. Okay, fine. That's one. This is sports. This is different. The interaction between the customer and the organization is on a different level than selling them a widget.